Doubt doesn't creep in when you know yourself, right? And you know your weaknesses. Like, okay, I got to get better at this. It's not doubt. It's reassurance of this is something I have to improve. This is something I have to attack. And once you can remove the thought process of I'm concerned with the opinions of others that don't matter, right? You can achieve a lot of things. And
The process.
Winning Super Bowls was the result of a lot of great process.
This is The Process, a special series inside Y Option where we dive into what separates the elite, their habits, their mindset, and the principles that guide them when no one's watching. Welcome back, or welcome to The Process, partnering with Y Option. This is a really cool limited series we've done all year long. Check it out. Mark Jackson, Chris Fowler, Peyton Manning. And today, presented by our founding sponsor, 76, keeping you on the go, go, go so you never miss a beat, is that man. Everybody's coach of the week, at least after what they did to Penn State. They got Indiana this weekend. That's right. It is Dan Lanning, Rhett.
Yeah, the man who took a white canvas from the whiteout and painted a masterpiece, and looking forward to getting some of the brushstrokes from that one as we go forward here, my brother.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Again, The Process, it's a deep dive into how people navigate that phrase, that word, Dan Lanning, as well as anybody. So let's get right to it. Dan Lanning, presented by our founding sponsor, 76. All right, Coach, thanks for coming back onto the show. You've done it a few times. Always great seeing your face. I'm always reminded of like back at Arizona State as a GA or at Pitt, and here we are. Congratulations on the win. Curious what it was like. You get home at 7:30? Is that what I heard on Sunday morning after that?
Yeah, about 5:30.
Yeah.
5:30, and you need to go to bed, but you really can't yet. You're kind of excited. So, it turns around into another day. We were at work, still on Sunday, so went back and got to evaluate the film, figure out where we can grow. But it was certainly a fun one.
I think that's an interesting point to hit on, Coach. Like, figure out the ways where you can grow. But in a way, does a win like that in a big moment affirm your process, or are you immediately thinking of ways, okay, I wish we could tweak this a little bit in that situation?
Yeah, both, right? Like we since the beginning of the season, we've said double down, right? But a big piece of our process is that it's growth, right? So you're immediately evaluating like, okay, this didn't get us this time, but it could get us next time. Or we have to have an immediate adjustment for this and figuring out, okay, here's where we have to improve. Every one of our players in our program during bye week, they have an improvement plan, right? This is the one thing that you have to get better at, right? And each position has an improvement plan. Like, this is the one thing our unit has to do better for us to be the team we want to be, and coaching staff included, right? So peel back the layers, figure out where we got to get better. But growth is every week. It's not just bye week. It's every moment. And that's something I think that hopefully separates us at the end of the day.
Okay, so when we peel back the layers to just that concept of growth, it's a core DNA trait in the program. When did you first get exposed to it? Like, was it the Jewel 9 back at William Jewell College? Was it when you got to Arizona State or Pitt or Bama? Like, when did that become part of, like, we're going to attack this theme pretty regularly?
Yeah, I think probably my early time as a GA at Alabama, you start to recognize, like, okay, we're evaluating. You do a write-up on everything that you do, right? There's a post-game write-up. I think that we took that really to another level when we got to Georgia about, hey, here's the calls I liked that I made in the game. Here's the calls I didn't like. Here's our preparation errors, what we weren't prepared for, what we were prepared for. Here's our personnel errors. Here's where we played guys in the wrong spot. And then you start doing the same thing with each position on the team. And then now we have our players write self-reflections, right? So at the end of each week, our players write a reflection on, what they thought worked really well in the week, what showed up in the game and worked really well, and then what's their process moving forward, based off of that. Okay, this next week, this is what I'm going to do differently based on what happened the previous week. And these guys holding themselves accountable to what do they have to improve? What do they have to attack?
And Coach, you mentioned, the time that you spent there at Alabama with Nick Saban, who we, have all come to know as kind of the GOAT of process, right? From his time at Michigan State, and how he kind of formulated that process-oriented approach rather than results-oriented approach. What was your understanding of that word process before you got to Alabama? And how did Coach Saban maybe alter or change it in that time?
Our sport is such a result-oriented sport,
Sure.
right? And probably all the way up until my time getting there, you're always like, did it work or did it not work? That's how you measured success, right? But once you get around coach, I think you quickly figure out, like, you might have got a third down stop, and if there was somebody uncovered, somebody was getting their butt ripped, right? And you realize, okay, let's go fix the problem before it becomes a problem again. And that's certainly the way. We always talk about, good process, bad result, or bad process, good result. Like those things happen too. You might do a route completely the wrong way and the quarterback still throws it to you for a touchdown, right? Or you might execute a defense the wrong way and you still make a tackle for a loss. All those things we have to continue to evaluate to make ourselves the best version of us. And that's certainly something I took from Nick and something I took from Kirby.
Years ago, I was told like this thought in fundamental psychology was to get anything accomplished, you have to one, write it down, two, say it out loud, and three, tell somebody so they could hold you accountable. You're referencing us. You're having players write things out. I've never heard of that before. I'm curious, what have you noticed in terms of the benefits from it, the lessons learned for them? We're in a generation that doesn't like to communicate anyway, and here you are having them write things down.
Yeah, I think it's a great challenge. One, sometimes it's hard to say something to somebody's face, right? But for whatever reason, our guys can be really honest when they write down all their thoughts post game. They can tell you exactly where they're at mentally. What do they have to improve? And some guys still got opportunities for growth, but now I get a chance to go read through it and say, hey, man, I need some more detail, right? I need to see this level up. And I think when you do that, you're going to get a better result through that process. And, that's something. Self-awareness is something I'm really, really big on. Like if you can identify a problem within yourself before a coach tells you, before somebody on Twitter tells you, like before you see it or hear it from someone else, then you got a better chance of solving that problem and really attacking it. So we want those guys to do really self-awareness and evaluation of themselves before we ever tell them what they did well or didn't do well in the game. So we can see, okay, how much do they really know about their performance? How much do they really know about where they're at? And I think the better we get at that as coaches, the better we get at that as players, we're going to have a really strong team because of it.
I think that's a really cool part of the journey, right, of a player to kind of see that, maybe week over week, year over year,
Yeah.
even as you get to some of your more experienced players. I'm also curious, with your journey, how you communicate that piece of it with your players and maybe how they take some of it from you, driving, from Kansas City to Pitt, right. To go try to get a job like that kind of desperation, that kind of belief and confidence in yourself. Are there lessons that you've been able to pull from that have been valuable to your players?
I don't spend a lot of time in my journey. I think the best lesson I can give to our players is the way I come to work every day and the way I step in that meeting room every day. Just the example of, okay, this is how I work and this is what I expect from you. Right. Now, if I bring the juice and the energy and I show the preparation with the way my meetings are set up, with my communication to the team, the way we attack problems, me coaching our best players the hardest. I think if they see that, then they recognize, this is the way the process is supposed to look. This is the way it's supposed to operate.
With the Fuel Forward app, the more discounts you stack, the more you save.
Feels good to save. I know, right?
How low can you go?
Connection is a huge part of your process. One of the first times we did an interview like this, you talked about how your wife navigating and eventually beating cancer impacted your process of, hey, I wanted to be a riser. I knew I could be, but now I've got perspective on life. Here's your team rising again. You're one of the hottest teams in America coming off that win. And here we go again in year 2 in the Big Ten. How do you maintain perspective and making sure that you're staying connected to the things that matter most?
Yeah. So there is no balance in this profession, but when you have opportunities, you have to make sure you maximize them. Right. So I know this week I'm going to see Titan play football. Like tonight, I'm so jacked to see my youngest go have a little league football game. I've got to see one other one this year, but now I get to see him go operate. And that's important, right? It's important for our players to know, okay, you can be a championship father. You can be a championship husband. Take advantage of those moments, eating dinner with my kids during the bye week and my wife during the bye week. Like that's important. That's something that we're going to make sure that we make happen. And then guess what? On Thursday, when you have to go out recruiting and Friday and Saturday, when you're out recruiting, you got to go do that. That's part of it. And I think my family recognizes the benefit of hard work, right? Like they know, okay, dad's working hard and that's what it takes. But when he's available, he's here and present. And you just got to make sure that you recognize those moments and don't let them, slip away where you don't take advantage of them when they exist in front of you.
That said, Coach, do you feel like there are things that you have to do, personally to be at your best for all the people in your life that count on you, players, kids, wife? Are there things that go through your mind that way?
Well, I just think that again, I think the players take on the personality of their coach, and it's important that I'm composed in critical situations. It's important that I take a deep breath and have some perspective in the seat I sit in, and then I think it's important that I always challenge our coaches. Like, could you make that play? We can be really critical of players, right? At times, like that's our job. Our job is to be critical. It's our job to evaluate. But the things that we ask guys to do, like, could we do that? And then there's a lot of things I see our players do every single day that we can't do. So realize that the things that we ask our players to do is really hard. Have clear perspective of it, and then ask yourself, how can you coach them to do that better? How can they put themselves in better position to execute the things we're asking them to do?
Yeah, I know we know Will Stein was a talented quarterback. I don't know if he's making those throws that Dante Moore had made.
Yeah.
A
We're
big
glad we
part
got
of
Dante at quarterback. Love Will.
yeah,
Glad we got
Yeah.
Dante.
yeah,
Fair
copy
enough.
that. As do we. I want to double down on the connection part of it because one is like
Yeah.
spending time with the players, having them at your house. Like you've talked a lot about that, but the other part is like connecting to the game plan and connecting to the trust that you have to have. Going
Mm.
back and watching you all play this year, I think of Dylan last year or Bo the year before. Like there is a trust there, especially at that position, and it was on display from Dante Moore in Happy Valley in the whiteout. Was there a moment for you where like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like these guys are all in. Did you know it going in terms of just the growth of a team early on in the season in your final game in September?
Yeah, I think in the game you don't have at least in the Penn State game you don't take time to take a deep breath and say, okay, wow, look at that, like look at these guys do it. But I do think post game you get the opportunity to go back, and some of the best plays in that game were plays that our players made. Right, the first look wasn't there. The scramble on third down, throwing it to Decorian, that's not the way the play is designed. It reminds me of moments last year, a Wisconsin game where Dylan did something really similar and he threw it to Terrence Ferguson for a first down on a fourth down that was critical. So there's like critical moments where you see our players, playing the game and executing at a high level when it's not as scripted, right? It's not the way you think it's going to play out, but they have the tools and the ability to solve problems for themselves. And when you see those moments show up, that's when you feel like, okay, these guys really get it. They have it. And it's exciting for you as a coach.
Yeah, they've seemed to excel in those moments when maybe things aren't going as well, right? To flip that script a little bit. And doubt is it's such like just a human emotion, right? It happens within everybody, and I'm sure you can relate doubt to adversity. How do you deal with doubt? Like, have you figured out a process for talking about that with players and with your staff on how to recognize it and then push past it?
Well, I think it goes again back to having great self awareness, right? Like doubt doesn't creep in when you know yourself, right? And you know your weaknesses. Like, okay, I got to get better at this. It's not doubt. It's reassurance of this is something I have to improve. This is something I have to attack. And once you can remove the thought process of I'm concerned with the opinions of others that don't matter, right? You can achieve a lot of things, and that's something I'm really big in. Like I could care less what somebody else thinks that's not in the heart of our program, that isn't there for a Tuesday practice, that hasn't seen how we operate, and they're going to question calls that we might make in a game. What we do on a fourth down. When it works, everybody celebrates it and tells you that it's a great decision. And when it doesn't work, everybody tells you you're an idiot. And I've been on both ends of those. But we will always measure ourselves with belief in our players if we prepared them, the right way. And I thought that really showed up in this game against Penn State.
Preparing in the right way. There's a part of it that there are X's and O's, clearly. I think there's a part of it in life. And I think sometimes when you're in these big chairs, it's hard to do both. You don't see many people doing it. You've often said that people can learn a lot from your locker room. You haven't been afraid to stand up for things that you believe in and utilizing the platform that you have, which is amazing, to impact people in a positive way. What is that path like for you? And I'm curious if you were able to share like what we could learn from your locker room. What might it be for the 2025 team?
Yeah, I just think the amount of adversity that our guys deal with, on a daily basis, it's hard. You're really being an athlete. It's a full-time job, and you have to do that with emotions of creating competition at practice, but realize you're also competing against your brother, right? The emotions of I want to go win this rep and dominate the guy across from me, but realize that that's a guy that's on your team, and that we can both grow and compete at the same time. The backgrounds that exist in our locker room, the different people, the different places they come from, the different races, the different religions that exist in our locker room, and somehow they're all able to coincide and have a common purpose, a common goal, where we're all pulling in the right direction. And it's certainly something that if you could study it close, I think there would be a lot of benefit for everybody else in the world to experience.
Boy, I would agree with you on that. I mean, there's so many, the connection towards a common goal, I just feel like is so powerful. And maybe there's just too many different goals out there in the world today for that to be the issue. But I wanted to go back a little bit to one of the things that you talked about recently, with your wife, and you have those conversations with your family about this being the last place that we coach, right? You make the idea that you make decisions before opportunities arise. When did that kind of thinking come into your mind?
For us, I mean, right when we got here, and I've been really blessed. You pick something, you pick a lane. You want to stick it through, right? You want to see it through. You want to do everything you can for the people that gave you that opportunity. I think that's the part that a lot of people miss is, I got a chance to be the head coach at Oregon, right? I can't take that for granted. But that decision was made. What I didn't realize is how wonderful this experience would be, right? You pick a lane, and sometimes you pick a lane and you're like, man, this isn't what I thought it would be. It's not as good as I thought it was going to be. This has been unbelievable for me now, and I certainly won't take that for granted. Our family won't take that for granted. We've fallen in love with this place. The support, the people, that's makes all the difference. So you double down on, hey, this is what we're doing regardless. And then you find out that it's absolutely an unbelievable place to be. You enjoy it. You're fired up to go to work every day. You love the people you work with. You love the players you coach. And when you get all that, it makes it pretty easy.
Wow. Okay, Coach, before we cut you loose, every week has a theme. I know you're in a bye week. You got Indiana. It seemed like the white blank canvas was a theme for Penn State. Any tea leaves on the theme for Indiana coming to town you can share with
we're
us?
We're not to Indiana yet. We're on work week. So right now for us, it's tap in, right? Tap in, be where you're at, be where your feet are at, focus on what you got to attack right now, and try to have that mindset, because we're not to Indiana yet. We're about Tuesday right now during bye week. That's what we're attacking.
I love it. Tapped in. Thanks for tapping in with us.
Yeah.
Hey,
absolutely. Appreciate you guys always.
Thank you.
You got it, man.